Yeah.
Nolan, I just thought you just took up a liking to kids' books all of a sudden.
Well,
I see where you rank in your family.
I have now that I'm, yes, trying to be. I think we're all in this group. Anybody that's a parent is all trying to win Dad of the Year. So the effort's there. How is everybody doing? I'm excited about kind of this new, and if anybody cruising around, if you don't mind, like just while we're out of the gate, just muting so we can all just be on the same page here. So again, like I said before, guys, I'm excited about kind of not a new format or anything, but just that I want to. I know everyone has a crazy schedule. The cooler this thing is growing like this, I just want to accommodate for everyone's schedule. So, like I said, if you haven't, you should have already received, like, for the next 3 months at least, an invitation to every week. Every week we're going to do a live call like this. So I just want to be as in front of you guys as I possibly can. So not only accommodating for Zane when you do your weekly accountability coaching calls, but just like weekly as a group, all of us together. So I'm still kind of building out, you guys. I'd like to have your feedback, like building out maybe like in a weekly agenda. That way we have some congruency between like week to week calls. Or if you guys have thoughts that are that you guys would like to, uncover, or questions or thoughts, because we got so many people in a group that's like, some people have been doing it for over a year, other people have just joined. So I'm trying to figure out like what is the best way as we continue this kind of like congruency weekly calls, how I can serve you guys the best. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out and work. So if anybody has like a thought or question that, like, don't hesitate to stop me, Zane, if you want to jump in and have an idea about that. But really, we just give a shit and we want to help you guys with like where you are today. So that's what we're working on. So we got a couple of new members on tonight. I wanted to at least let them trying to figure out here. If you want to speak up, if you're new here, I know we got a couple guys here. I'm seeing Michael and Zach and Delmas and a couple other guys. If you wanted to just to briefly give us your hope, your 30,000 foot view, who you are, what you want to do, and we can kind of go, we can start chopping it up from there.
If you want, I can go first.
Sure. Absolutely. Go for it.
Hey man, my name is Delmas. I'm an engineer at an aerospace company down in Tampa, Florida. I saw your videos on TikTok and I thought they spoke truth. So I wanted to get on the collective group and try to get this thing going on commercial real estate.
Love it. Awesome. We're excited to have you, man. It's great. I know Dave, you're new. Dave and I, we've been speaking for
man.
a year now. Glad to finally have you on board, man.
Yeah, I guess I finally got smart and joined. Are we allowed to drink on this call? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Absolutely.
You want.
No,
I know. You haven't been. You've been missing out so far.
No, I'm good for sure.
Exactly. I need something cold after today, man.
Yeah, I'm actually about to get in the car and head to a 7th grade football game. So
nice.
You know how schedules are. But no, man, I long time coming. Healthcare executive, just trying to figure out another path to financial freedom. You've really resonated with all your videos. I know we've had multiple conversations across, not just real estate, just a bunch of stuff in general. And I hope I can bring some value along with learning a lot along the way. But yeah, I'm ready to jump in and get going. Looking forward to a couple weeks. We're going to all be together. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Really excited about the event in the next couple of weeks. If you're making it, it's going to be off the hook. We've gone over everything that we possibly can to make sure that it's just going to be great. We're really excited about it. So I hate that there's going to be some people that are missing, but I think don't put it out there yet, but I'm hoping that we will be doing this like every 6 months. We'll see. I don't want to start it yet, but I'm just seeing that, like, as our community is growing, I'm like, man, if I can just keep on getting people together without putting everybody in a spot where they feel obligated, I guess I got to try and figure out that like happy medium, but I'm working that. So the
And I
efforts.
will
Excited about it. Go ahead,
and
Zane.
I will say this just in case anybody is planning on coming to the event, but you haven't talked to me yet. I need to make sure that we have you down for our head count, and then also have your polo shirt size as well. You and your plus one polo shirt size. But if we don't have you down for the head count, then there's no way that that could kind of like screw things up.
And
So make
also,
sure you get
if you can't make it, text Zane your shirt size anyway. We're gonna send you like a cool like Nike dry fit like golf polo. Like we want everybody to have one. So it's like one of those like really cool stitch, one of those things. So text Zane your golf polo size. If you can't make it in person, we're gonna get you one of those no matter what. So just to be, and also we got Padfolios. So like just it's got the CRE on it. It's pretty cool. We just got the confirmation like they're coming in the mail. So we got just a bunch of stuff that like some quote unquote swag that we're gonna give, and we want everyone to like just have. And so if you can make it, you're gonna get it when you're there. If you're not gonna be able to make it, we hate it, but we want you to have the gear, So we're getting fired up for it. It's like it's been all the stuff has been like it's all paid for at this point. Everything is now we're just waiting for everyone to be there. It's gonna be freaking badass. So we're excited about it. And I just saw Matthew texted, will parts of the event be recorded? So I don't think we're gonna have like the whole thing like a live recording, but we're gonna have we've hired like an entire videographer to like be on top of the entire thing. So I don't Zane's kind of in charge of that, but it's gonna be we want to just present something that's just like if someone can't make it, you can expect to get kind of a gist if you're not there. Would you agree with that, Zane? Am I crazy by saying that?
Yeah, so we'll have a couple different people there, but it won't be like a giant
Right.
team of videographers or like a whole video production team. But we'll have somebody there with a camera and a setup and just capturing every night and pretty much every minute of it, but not necessarily like the individual presentations that all the speakers are gonna put on. So you won't really get the value out of that part unless I suppose he could film it, but the microphone quality probably won't be the best. But maybe next year we'll have like a whole video production team if people want that.
Yeah, we can figure that out. That's not neither here nor there. But
Mhm.
we're just pumped up. We're just really excited about it. And Nick Saban is not the guest speaker, unfortunately.
I had to throw it out there.
I'd have been sweet. We got a really cool guy. He's kind of the guy that his name is Josh Rhodes, who he's like a
I know Josh. Yeah.
Yeah, Josh Rhodes is a guy that he's kind of not some inspiration guy or whatever, but he's kind of the spearhead on like what helped us create this idea, this CRE Collective. And so he's like from poverty. He's not gonna inspire anybody to like go move a mountain, but he's gonna be like, look, I've done it. You can do it too, that kind of thing. So it'll be really good. I'm excited about it. So, but that was just kind of the quote unquote housekeeping, whatever. I wanted to hear anybody what they're working on right now. I know there's a lot. I mean, when I talk to Zane and I are in the office literally every single day together, working on Zane's update me on like where everybody is, like what's happening. Anybody have like any cool like breakthroughs with brokers or a deal that like somebody agreed on or anything that's kind of in someone's pipeline? I know John Surtees working on something. Tim and Russet, we were in Atlanta this morning looking with the deal with Tim and Russet. If they're on, I'm not sure if they're on here or not, but it's been really amazing. Like, damn, y'all are just taking crazy action. And I mean, we were talking about flying down to Sarasota on Friday, just trying to get with John. So it's amazing how quickly things can happen when like the action is taken properly. So I wanted to hear kind of how anybody that's on the other sideline or things are going. If that's good to say?
I have a different one from the one that you already know about. No, this is kind of something new that came about. Can you hear me okay? I got my headphones on.
Yep, good.
Gosh, real quick, I'll be quick. So this is an industrial building with a absolute net lease that has 10 years remaining. I pitched the seller financing at all of our financials. They like it. The only thing is that the owner was concerned with the creditworthiness of us as well as the lender that we use, because they were like, oh well, I don't know if I want to do the deal if we're going to be secondary, right? So what would be a good response to that if they're just like, yeah, I mean, we just need to make sure you guys are like credit worthy, that we're going to be putting down the 25%, leave it in the deal. Well, what if we never get that back and you guys default?
Good question. So what I always like to tell, and Zane and I actually are, as we are driving today, we are talking about this. The biggest response to that objection. So the objection, so everybody knows, is that if you're buying a $2 million building and the bank is going to finance 1.5 million and the seller is going to leave $500,000 in that deal, what they are doing essentially, again, for those that are, have been from the beginning, they already know this, but those that are new, what they're doing is they're not receiving, which otherwise you would have raised the capital or you would have wired $500,000 to the title company at closing. Instead, what they're doing is they're not going to receive that would have otherwise been a down payment in a closing check. Instead, they're going to leave that money in the deal in the form of debt. And that debt on the HUD statement is going to be 1.5 million, Community First Bank, and then $500,000 of a seller finance second mortgage, or again, financing the down payment. And the reason why that makes sense for the seller is for, well, two reasons. Well, there's a couple, but the first reason is they don't receive that money at closing, so it's not a capital gain. They are able to earn interest payments on that money that they left in the deal, pretty much guaranteed, because it's collateralized by real estate. And especially if they have, they own a property, if it's a seller, if it's an owner user and they sell that property and they sell the business that they were, using out of that space. Most people don't think about this, but they no longer have new money coming in. They're like, oh, I sold my business, sold my building. This is great. I got $4 million in cash, but now it's just sitting in a checking account and they can say they're going to go and invest it, but now it's just a race against time. They can drink Mai Tais on the beach, hope and pray to God they outlive their money. So you got a couple, you have new money coming in, interest payments, and then of course they pay less capital gains. So to answer your question, John, like how do you overcome this, I don't want to be in a second position objection? So the biggest piece that you have to understand from a litigation perspective is that the second position mortgage, any mortgager that has a claim to property, that has a lien on a property, if that person does, like, for example, John, if I don't pay you a monthly interest rate or my monthly mortgage that we agreed on, that I signed and we notarized and we recorded, and I don't pay you, you have the same legal action and authority to foreclose on me that the first position lien holder does. So again, to clear that up, a $2 million property, the bank lent 1.5 million and the seller lent 500,000. If I make the mortgage payments to the bank, no problem whatsoever, and then I happen to get abducted by aliens and I don't make my mortgage payment to the seller, well, they can foreclose on me if they wanted to. The kicker is that it's almost got to be strategic, because they are going to get paid out whatever is on top of the first position mortgage. So the bank who's in first position is going to start the bidding at $1.5 million. Now, all of us as investors, if you happen to look on School, I made a whole post about this a couple of days ago, talking about the personal guarantee. Let me see if I can pull this up. But it's basically saying that if you have the second, let me pull this up here. There we go. The personal guarantee, if you buy this deal with if it's a good deal, if the building, again, you bought it for 2 million, it should probably be worth 2.5. You'll never have any issue with the personal guarantee. But the seller, on the other hand, he should be able to recoup his entire investment because he's selling it at a discount because we negotiated a good deal. So my biggest response to that, coming full circle, is that the seller has just as much authority to foreclose and just as much foreclosing power, essentially, as the first position does, but then they have to be strategic if they foreclose, because the first position gets paid out first. That's a long-winded answer, But I hope that kind of answers your question, John. What is that? Is that fair to say?
Well, what their concern is that like, I guess my response to them was going to be like, well, look, because they initially thought that us as an investment group was going to finance a 70 or put down the 75. And so they were wanting to know like our personal like credit worthiness. Like they didn't understand that I was using a lender. And so the broker called me. I'm like, no, so like we're using a bank that has billions
Right.
like assets under management, for them to default, like, Russia would have to invade us or something like that or whatever.
There's-
But I mean, like, they're just concerned. Their whole thing is like, yeah, we don't mind leaving money in the deal, but how do we know that, like, what's the worthiness that we're going to get our money back, essentially, right? Like, do
yeah,
we send them information on like our lenders or whatever? I don't know.
Well, one thing that gun to my head, what this sounds like is they don't have crazy motivation. Am I crazy to say that? I mean, maybe they are motivated, but it doesn't sound like if someone was motivated to be like, holy shit, I'm getting an offer. Yeah, this is I gotta make a move. You see what I'm saying? Like it doesn't sound like they're incredibly motivated. Am I crazy to say that?
Well, they're definitely interested and they're definitely motivated. They're just trying to make sure, like, yeah, I mean, if we end up doing this, am I gonna like how do I know that I'm gonna still like get paid back the interest in the balloon since I'm secondary,
Well,
you
then
know?
what I would do is if I'm pulling up like my spreadsheet here, hypothetically, like let's just use a deal, for example, like this is a building that I have in Birmingham. I made a video on this one today, actually. I don't know what the value of the land is. Let's just say it's 50 grand, whatever. Square footage is like 27. And if y'all were at last year's event, you walked the inside of this building, this Jefferson Boulevard, 516. If anybody was there, I'm seeing Grant pull up, but I remember we got a chance to walk inside of this building last year. If you happen to make it,
That's
but
the one with the mezzanine in there, right?
yeah, it's got the mezzanine. Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
building. But I just want to show the numbers behind it. Like this is a building that I bought last year, and I had the seller like leave money in the deal. It's got this like second, layer to it. You can see like the upper, whatever. So it's that same building. But let's just look at the math and just see. So I bought this for like one. So bought it at like a 12 cap rate, whatever the number looks like. The seller left in the deal $300,000 at 6% interest. So, again, strong. So remind me, Johnny. Now that I'm just like I kind of switched gears in my mind there. So, are you asking how they're going to get their money back, right? Like how can they guarantee that they're going to be able to at that balloon payment 36 months, they're going to receive their payment. So, again,
Right.
always look at this X. If you have your pro forma, if anybody's like, on your own computer and you have your own pro forma pulled up, this refi cap rate right here of 8%, you can go over to the overview and see what its intrinsic value is really going to be. Now, you'll notice something for a second. You'll see that this 8%, the sale price of 1.97 is different than the 1.65. I bought it for 1.1. So I bought it just, about a $500,000 less than what it's probably intrinsic value. And maybe this is in 9%, right? Like maybe I could probably pop it at 8.5. So I think that's probably a closer valuation for some fund to come pop it. But that values it at 1.5 million bucks. So I bought it with 400,000 of equity. This number is different than the sales price because what this number takes into account is my exit. If you notice this exit date, I bought it, like I said, in September of last year. We're going to exit in 5 years. Like a triple net lease, the rents increase every year. So this net operating income should increase by year 5. So I'll be at 148 and some change. And then you divide that by the market cap rate, which throws off, that sales price. So to go back to your question, John, if you buy the property at the right price, that's why we focus on those metrics. You buy it at a good deal, you know that you'll be able to refinance at a 75% loan to value of this new value at that balloon payment. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, that makes sense. But I guess what could we say to the seller that would make them feel comfortable with us being able to repay them?
What could you say to the seller to make it comfortable? As in like, hey, we want to do the deal, but you're not comfortable. You're going to make your money back. I'd say, how about this? Let's lower the purchase price by 30% and I'll buy it for you 100%.
Right.
I mean, then you don't have to leave any money in the deal and I'll just pay you out straight up and down. I mean, I do something kind of dramatic like that and be like, hey, man, no big deal. The building's probably worth this anyway because is it vacant?
No.
Okay. Well, then I'd still swing for it anyway. Be like, hey, no big deal. This is how we offer on it. This is how my investors and I offer on our property. And if you're not into this, we've only got, so much cash we can allocate towards these types of deals. If it's not for you, we're going to go make the same offer on 4 other spots. Are you in or you out? Not in like an arrogant, douchey way, but in like a confident, like oozing confidence. We only do this. This is the only thing that we do. And if you're not wanting to play ball, that's no big deal. Let the building sit for another year. That kind of thing.
Right. Well, I guess in general, like for our knowledge, it's like the only way that they would not be able to get their money is if like the lender that we use defaults, or if there's just like for whatever reason there's no longer a lease there, right? Because I mean, we're receiving the rent checks every single month, and that money is what's fueling everything, right?
Yeah, it's your tenant, and the strength of the lease is really what the strength of the debt is. So when you borrow that money out of the gate anyway, and again, you buy it right, we do all the must-have metrics, the whole thing. When you go and I mean, that's kind of a weird. It's kind of like a doomsday kind of question, like, oh, we're not going to make our money back. It's like you're going to have a bigger problem if the first position mortgage it defaults like that doesn't. There, it sounds like you're even asking more about like if you default on your payments to them, not so much on the first position mortgage. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and I was trying to explain to them like, look, no, it's not like me personally who is going to lend the other money or put we're actually using a lender who has billions in assets under management, who has a, like a
It doesn't seem like
financial.
understands like what the offer is. Maybe we need to go back and like simplify this offer. And here's another good point, John.
Yeah,
Everybody
possibly.
else that's here, another good point that you can think about is when you are offering to a owner user, especially not like some investor, okay, just like a normal a business owner, like a glass supply guy. Like I said, we were over in Atlanta this morning. Zan and I, we were talking, we were meeting with this guy, with this broker. I would say 95% of these sellers that are owner users, you find an owner user, you're going to be in great shape. But when you start using higher level real estate vocabulary, what it ends up doing is it ends up spooking the seller a little bit because they know their vocabulary. Like everyone's in their own occupation. If you start using certain dialogue, like I don't know if my brother Parker's on here or not, but he's in medical sales. And if he starts talking to me about the rods that they're putting in people's backs, I'm like, dude, I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. He's gonna be like, okay, what they do is they do this. I'm like, okay, that's what I needed to know. I needed to know what that thing that they do. I don't know all the, anatomy of a person. So when we start getting into like the real roots and the nicks and the crannies about vocabulary and all these ratios and expenses and all that kind of stuff, it puts up a wall because any person that's a business owner probably has a little bit of an ego, myself included. I've got pride, like I believe in what I'm doing. And so does your seller. And if you start using vocabulary to sound like not in like not like you're doing it on purpose, but like a way to where you come across as like you're super smart and you're smarter than they are, they're going to be like, F this guy. Like, I'm not going to deal with this dude. He's just, he's a Mr. Smart Aleck and know it all, versus being like, hey, look, this is kind of what we're offering. It's very simple. Let me break this down to how I went. And I always joke, I say, I went to public school. This is the best way that I can personally understand this. And I break it. So I kind of like break the ice that way. So instead of like making this kind of sophisticated, which feels cool out of the gate, but really a lot of these sellers and these that are not like 1031 guys, they just need someone to explain it to them in a very simplistic way. If that kind of makes sense. And that's the success. That's the success that I've had with positioning seller financing on some of the buildings that I have. It's trying to break it down, showing them on a one pager, back of a napkin. This is what you got. This is your situation. Let me see if I can improve it by leaving money in the deal. And it's like that simple. Is that fair to say? By anybody have a question or thought on that? Okay. All right. Well, what I'll do is I'll just show, I'm trying to, again, I like to hear y'all's feedback, and we can, and I'll put something out here on school. I'll put like a, like just live call agenda, agenda feedback or agenda suggestions or something. That way, every week when we get on these calls, I just don't want to talk about like deals that I've done or whatever. I want to go back and forth on the dialogue of what you all are individually looking at. Like, Grant and I spoke last week on a building that he's looking at, which is it's a little outside of the buy box, but it's got some potential because the seller's crazy motivated. And we always talk, and maybe Grant, you can dive in for a few minutes on like the deal that you're working on. But the seller, in his case, is a brokerage, which is kind of unique. It's not like a normal like 9-to-5er or a business owner. But I think the biggest piece that we all have to know, I say it all the time, but the three biggest keys that you have to have when purchasing real estate, the must-haves is you got to have something wrong with the property, you have to have a timeline, and you have to have motivation from the seller. You can have two. If you have three, you got a great deal. Two's a good deal. Anything less than that's really is, but you got to have somebody that's moving to San Francisco tomorrow and they got to close tomorrow. That's a slam dunk deal. That's motivation, right? Someone's getting divorced in 30 days. They got to close before they get divorced. That's a good deal. But if someone says, well, I'm waiting around, I'm okay. Like my business partner and I really aren't that bad of friends. Like then they don't really have a whole lot of reason to give you a discount or do a deal. So if you don't mind, Grant, can you kind of chop for a few on just like
Sure.
the parameters on what you're working on and just like go over that kind of situation, and then maybe we can get some feedback from other people on what their opinion is.
Sure. So this is a deal that my broker brought to me. He works with Colliers, and interestingly enough, the brokerage had actually purchased this this parcel, this building, and it just didn't bite. I think they were thinking they could do a quick flip on it, and it didn't happen. So they've got a note on it, and it's deferred maintenance, and it's got a lot of work that needs to be done, probably 75K at least of renos just to get it up to snuff. But when I first went through it and kind of looked at it, I mean, it's got lower ceilings, just not exactly what I want, but it's in a good location for the right tenants because it's right on. I live in Jacksonville, so it's right off the port. So it gives them, and it's kind of an industrial area, so it's really close to arteries and such to get on different highways and different routes very easily, very quickly. But
Grant, is this Addison? Is this Addison?
No, it's Talleyrand.
Talleyrand. I don't want to share our emails, but I wanted to at least pull that up so maybe people can see it. If that's good.
Yeah, so it's 3814 Talleyrand Ave.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
You can pull it up.
Yeah.
32256.
There it is.
Got it?
Yep, I got it. Let's try it.
Yep.
Just so And then Grant, you can walk through it. I just wanted to like,
Yeah. So,
like, why not? You know?
yeah, again, it's very basic. They didn't have any real nibbles on it. And just the amount of stuff that I would have to put in, and I just thought, it kind of limits the tenants that I would be pulling in from the typical blue collar. I just thought, after you and I went back and forth, like it probably just isn't worth the squeeze, especially what they're asking for. They're asking 450 for it, which would really be at a lease rate of a little over 7 per square foot. And I was just even if I got a little bit of a discount, it just didn't seem like it was worth pushing. And then about a month and a half after I did a little bit of surveying in it and sized it up and walked away, a broker said, "Hey," the sellers came back to me and they're just like, "Hey, does this guy want to sell it? Like, we want to move this building as soon as possible." And I just said, "Well, listen, it's out of my parameters. I don't know that I really want to put a lot of effort into it." But I said, the only way I'm going to do this is if you seller finance it and that we have a tenant in tow.
Nice.
So that has to be a deal, because even if I get it at a song, a good deal, it's still a liability if I don't have a tenant. So they'll go back and they've given me basically just about everything on the note. I have one more thing that I'm waiting on, and I think we're just wanting to see the specifics of the mortgage, the lender, the amount of time, what they owe left, and then I'll look at it from there. But the fact that there is something wrong with the building too, of course, but those three things that you mentioned, they have a timeline. They're just like, now they need to move it, and they need to move it as soon as possible. And they didn't get any other bites on it, so I think they're willing to just about do anything. I even suggested maybe just taking over the payments and like whatever it takes.
Wow.
So I might just see, like you said, just to say how much cash do they just need? Like I'll just cut them a check, 10, 15 grand, just so they can walk away, and I'll just assume the mortgage potentially.
Yeah.
And we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I think another piece on this too, that when I spoke with Grant, I could probably pull this, not that we're trying to get all in our stuff, but I have a couple opinions on this building is, you guys can see it. It's not the largest space. It's not the largest site. And obviously, as we know, when we're looking at deals, we want to make sure that we are handling inside of these physical attributes. And the reason why, guys, that we, this isn't, I feel like I didn't just pull this out of a hat, just so I can be clear. The physical attributes, like 10 to 40, I say it every time, like 10 to 40,000 feet, 16-foot ceiling heights, roll up doors, and less than a mile off the highway. Those physical attributes are not, again, I didn't throw a dart at a map. I was doing some homework a couple of years ago when I started like trying to figure out what I was looking at. And there's like 1 million and some change businesses in the United States that have gross revenue, not net income, but gross revenue of $2 to $10 million in that little range. Over 1 million businesses. And the most popular site, I did a cross-checking. Most popular site, it's whatever the number percentage was, fit into these metrics, these basically 4 metrics: the square footage, the ceiling height, the roll-up doors, and the distance from the highway. So the reason why, just the undertone of why these physical attributes are so important is not so much because there's a business that is in there producing income or revenue, but number one, you've got not a mom and popper. It's an actual business owner that's bringing multiple 7 figures a year, which means if you look on their profit and loss and their balance sheet, they have a fixed cost. Rent is a fixed cost of their business. And so you won't have any issues with collecting rent every month because they're making multiple 7 figures of revenue. Now, on top of that, the reason why, again, is that the largest tenancy pool in the United States, these 4 metrics, is the largest tenancy pool in the United States for small business, $2 to $10 million. So what that means, again, is if somebody goes sideways and doesn't pay you rent, you most likely have another tenant behind you. So what this also does is when we assemble our team, we are, think about it, we're creating consistency and predictability for our leasing agent. They know the types of buildings that we're buying. So they say, okay, I know that Nolan, I know that Grant, I know that John, I know that Delmas, I know that all these guys are buying this specific type of property. So that gives them the confidence to go speak to these other business owners that are maybe in a little bit larger, a little bit smaller, that are wanting to fit into that style of space. And they can confidently know that, hey, if I go and bring a tenant, I know no one's going to have a great site that's going to be leasable. The bank, on the other hand, the bank's going to say, hey, I know that Nolan is buying predictable, consistent style of real estate with predictable, consistent style of tenants. So overall, globally, it de-risks the deal. And that's why when you start deviating away, like again, sometimes there's always a reason to go do something, right? I'm not like saying this is a never one, like you can't ever not deviate. But this is why this is so important. If you get too big, you shrink the tenancy pool. If you get too small, you shrink the tenancy pool. It's like a bell curve. We want to stay inside of that massive window of tenancy, of people that are looking to rent that space, predictable income with business style of tenancy. Like that's the whole point of these basic metrics. So when Grant's looking at that deal that's got, it might have been what, 5,500 feet, Grant, ballpark?
Yeah, just over 5,000.
Just over 5,000 feet. Now, like, I'm not saying that's wrong, and I'm not saying don't go after it. I mean, I've bought buildings that are 7,200 feet before. So I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that the smaller you go, the smaller the tenancy pool if that tenant happens to go sideways or leave, or like I joke and say, get abducted by aliens. Like, if we stay in that little range, we just have more predictability and more consistency, and there's more opportunity, and it de-risks the deal. That's kind of where, like I said, I just kind of created this, not based upon my, just my, a breeze, like someone opening the door and I felt a breeze. It's like, hey, I created these 4 things, 5 or 6 really, because they tend to have the highest success rate and the smallest amount of risk. So that's kind of how I came up with that. Does anybody have a thought or a question on that as I kind of quickly, briefly went over all that? I don't want to just like sit up here as like I'm doing a sermon or like a, teaching a college course or anything. I want to like make sure I'm answering questions, but this is the reason why, underlying why these 4 metrics are so important. When you deviate away, you've seen a bell curve before. It like dramatically goes down the further that you get away from these. And again, it's not impossible. There's some buildings that are out there that are very unique to a specific style of tenant that can lease forever. But if that dude ever leaves, you're going to have some serious trouble re-tenanting that space. So that's why we try and keep this thing just like an open box, close to the highway for distribution, fabrication, supply. And what do you know? Somebody else is going to come behind in a couple of days or weeks and say, man, this is a great site. Let me re-tenant the space, because my leasing agent knows exactly what type of building that I own. We don't deviate away from what we own. That's why it's like saying no is better than always saying yes. So does that make sense before I take up an offering for that sermon? But again, like it's just I hammer on that, and that's why, like I said, I say no more often than yes, because sometimes when we're all eager, I know everybody in the group is like, man, I'm so close, and that's the game, is like staying on your toes and going after it. But I've had experience personally in the past where you just do a deal to just do something because you just want activity, you just want to do something. But what it ends up doing is, if it's outside of our little comfort zone, or not comfort zone, but outside of our focus, even if it's like, I'm like a squirrel, like, oh, you can make 20 grand over here. Okay, I'll go. And it totally takes my bandwidth and my focus away from what we're truly trying to accomplish, which is buy these major league buildings with very little money, with consistent tenants and consistent cash flow, which again, de-risks the deal in the bank's eyes. Like, our bank is our best friend there. And if we can have a product where they're like, damn, these guys keep just bringing us great buildings with great leases and great locations, they're going to start buying you lunches and going to say, hey, like, when's the next deal coming around? And what do you know? That's when you develop that relationship where when they got new money coming in, they're calling you to ask if you can borrow it from them. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Thoughts or questions on that? What else can I go over tonight for you guys?
I can chime in.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty new, a couple weeks into the training, but I've kind of jumped ahead into the training. I've already watched all the videos.
Awesome.
But
Love it.
I've spoken to a bunch of realtors and there's a couple of them that are still responsive or sending me leads and stuff, but very far and few between. I've been just scanning Crexy and LoopNet and stuff and looking for stuff on there. Does it sound like I need to find a better broker, or am I on the right track? I've only found one or two properties that I'm still waiting on getting more information back that kind of check all the boxes. I haven't really made offers on anything yet.
Yeah, my best advice for somebody like where you're, like you said, you're not spinning your wheels. You're just like, all right, I'm ready to rip and roll. Like, what's the next move? I would go into your phone tonight and I would find 5 residential brokers, residential real estate agents. And I'd have this conversation. I'd text them and say, hey man, Josh, remember what city you're in?
I'm in Griffin. It's south of Atlanta.
Okay, south of Atlanta. Okay, I was just in Douglasville today. So, hey, Jared, whoever your friend that's a residential real estate agent. Hey man, I'm doing the commercial real estate thing. Who's the best guy in your Keller Williams office that you know about commercial real estate? Who's the best guy that knows commercial? Oh man, let me tell you something. You got to meet Tim. Tim rocks. Tim's been doing it for 30 years. He's amazing. Can you send a connecting text to Tim and I so I can buy Tim a cup of coffee? Oh man, yeah, of course, that'd be awesome. Like I just saw Tim in the office like 2 days ago. He'd love to meet you. Perfect. So you just got a new lead from one of your residential brokers in a commercial in an office, a brokerage it's a warm lead from somebody in his office. He's gonna say, hey man, this is my friend Josh. He's doing commercial real estate. And you can even text him exactly what to say. And I can create that text for you if you like. Hey man, I'm in commercial real estate. We're looking very specifically for this, that my group and I were looking for this specific thing. Love to buy you a cup of coffee, tomorrow or on Thursday, and meet you in person and just put a name with the face and just learn more about your story and see if we got some synergy, right? Not connect. I don't like the word connect. Connecting is a lazy get out of jail free card. I like synergy. I say in the word, like, see if we have some synergy, not like, oh, I want to connect. Do we have synergy? I like to introduce myself and see if we have synergy. And he's like, oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I've been doing it for 55 years or however long he's been doing it. You sit down, you buy him a cup of coffee for $3. You sit down, you hear his story, you legitimately listen to what he's saying and how he did. You ask a couple of good questions and say, well, what do you got right now? Like, what are you working on? Oh, wait, we got this building over here and wherever. You want to go look at it tomorrow? I got availability in the afternoon. Like, I'll be around. Let's go walk the site. Yeah, I'll be around. Let's go walk the site. Let's do it. And within like 72 hours of you not having any commercial ties, you got a warm lead from a guy in a guy's brokerage, and you're walking a commercial building with a commercial broker with the best commercial knowledge in that guy's office, according to a guy that you trust. And so from there, you do that 5 different times in 5 different guys that have brokerages. You can walk 5, 6 different sites. You go walk that property. It's great. Hey man, this is awesome. Yeah, what's the ceiling height on here? When's the last time the roof was replaced? What's the bird's eye view to the to the highway? Like, you just asking good questions like that. What's the actual square footage? You have a laser to see what the ceiling height is. Like, asking real estate questions, like sophisticated questions like that. He's like, damn, this guy's kind of a player. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, my group and I, what we do is we specialize in this. 10 to 40,000 feet, 60, like you go down that list like that. This is what my group and I specialize. We own over 200,000 square feet of commercial light industrial real estate, specifically this style of real estate. Do you have anything like that in your ballpark or in your pipeline? Man, we're working on this. We don't really have anything. Man, no problem. next time something like that comes across your desk, do you mind thinking of me? Oh man, would love to. Yeah. I got afternoon. My Friday afternoon is actually available. I'm going to go walk 2 sites. I might be available if you want to keep your phone on. Like it can happen that fast. It can happen that fast. It takes a little bit of courage because you're randomly just talking to some random ass dude and you're buying coffee for some random guy, but you do that once or twice and you get down that confident pitch and conversation and dialogue, it will become second nature to you and will become easy. And then you're just like, okay, how do I utilize this guy to go find the deal that I need in order to buy the properties that I want? If that makes sense. That's a very long-winded answer for maybe your question, if that makes sense. Anybody else have anything else on their mind? Well, yeah, the good news is, like I said too, is I'm going to be doing these every week. So what I like to do is that we start wrapping up. I don't want to keep guys too long, but if anybody has any questions or thoughts or whatever, just holler at me. But what I might do on school is I'm just going to put out like what I would some type of agenda. So every week I'm not just kind of like, oh, going around, because as this group builds up, I want to serve you guys. I want to serve you as best as I possibly can. And I feel like structure and a standard operating procedure is the best way that I can serve y'all. So what I'm thinking about doing again is that if you guys can give me some suggestions or ways that, or questions or thoughts or ideas during those calls that can benefit you or help you like with the situation that you're in, maybe we even say, hey, this is what we're going to be doing every single week, 15 minutes of this, 15 minutes, whatever it is. But then each week we open it up and say, hey, the questions that we got last week that Zane and I didn't answer during the week, we will make sure to hammer those out like in the last 30 minutes of a call or, you know, whatever it would be. So, like I said, I believe in this group. I believe in what we're doing. And I just want to make sure that I can provide you guys with the best information and action taking steps that I possibly can. So the entry is a lot less than what it would otherwise would be. So that's where I'm at, guys. So does anybody have kind of any last thoughts or questions or whatever else is on their mind before we get moving?
What's the best way to contact you, Nolan, if we have a question? Is it through text, email?
Text me. Just shoot me a text. I would say this, shoot Zane and I a text in the same group. And then what we'll do, if you haven't done it already, send Zane, say, hey, like I want to shoot a connecting text with Nolan and Zane. Just shoot a connecting text. What I'll do is I will change I'm into this now because I discovered you can actually do it. You can change the name of the group. And I put like this little picture in there and stuff. It's kind of easy and stupid, but shoot Zane and I a text shoot Zane a text. Zane will shoot a connecting text, and then you and I can just like chop up if you need anything else on the sideways. Like whatever you need, dude. Like I'm here to help you get from A to B. 100%.
Cool.
Sound good?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, y'all have a good evening. If anything else changes, like holler at me, let me know, and we can make this thing happen. Excited about what's coming next, man. For all of y'all that are going to make it live in a couple of weeks, I'm super pumped to see you guys. It's going to be really great, and I'm excited to have you in town. So there will be some very ice cold beers for everyone to enjoy at the end of the day as well. So you can count on that. So awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Okay. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.